Hey everybody, and welcome to yet another Nova Scribes. My name is Brian Tarallo. Nova Scribes. Well, let's see. First of all, who is joining Nova Scribes for the first time today? Anybody? Show of hands. For those hands that I can see, I can't see anybody. So we've got some return, frequent flyers. Nice to see you all. Oh, Zakia, nice to have you here. I'm glad you found us. Zakia, do me a favor. Type how you heard about Nova Scribes in the chat. We're always interested to see how people find their way here. Couple of announcements. First of all, you may or may not have heard, but Nova Scribes recently got into a strategic partnership with the IFVP, the International Forum of Visual Practitioners, which is roughly the industry body of, well, graphic recorders, visual practitioners, people that use graphics in order to move people. We are helping them out with their learning series. So this workshop is IFVP Learning presented by Nova Scribes. And this particular workshop is a series called Retooling You. Nova Scribes is based in Northern Virginia. You get it? Nova, Northern Virginia. Okay. In the DC area, and the DC area has taken a couple of body blows lately in terms of its economy, in terms of its jobs. And so we thought kind of a good way to maybe respond to that is to take stock. Might be a good idea if you are, between jobs, looking at jobs, to say, all right, maybe this is the moment. Maybe this is the sign that I need. Maybe one door closes, another door opens. And maybe this is the moment where I actually launch my facilitation practice. And so what Retooling You is all about, it's really two parts. On one side, we're going to cover the business of running a facilitation practice or a graphic facilitation practice. And then on the other side, we're going to cover some of the techniques. Today, we are going to cover managing through systems. What are the systems that you may or may not need to pull together in order to really stand up your practice? And I've got a couple of people helping me out today. So, Anita, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Anita Budraja. This is my third Nova Scribes meeting. I'm based in New York City, and I am an organizational development consultant specializing in conflict and strategic planning.
Cool. Anita is also a wizard at virtual facilitation. So again, if you do any strategic planning work, or if you've got something coming up where your clients are asking for strategic planning, conflict, mediation, all that good stuff, especially if you've got an organization that's like spread out, Anita is your person. Please reach out to her. I've also got Chris. Chris is helping out on the tech host side of things. Hi, Chris. Nice to see you. Chris, you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. For those of you that don't know, I am the studio manager of Lizard Brain. I am the brain behind Lizard Brain, as Brian likes to say. And so, yeah, I'm just here in the background helping out. And if you have any questions, let me know.
And by the way, Lizard Brain is my little company. Nice to meet you all. Nova Scribes is not. Nova Scribes is a free and open forum for visual practitioners. And so to that point, if you have a workshop, if you've got something that you've got some energy around and you'd like to do a presentation, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Chris. We would love to get you on Nova Scribes just to, share the knowledge. That's what we're all about. Okay, so today we are covering managing through systems. So here's how I thought we might do this. So give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Should say retooling you and then functions and systems. This is going to be probably the easiest brainstorming ever. What we thought we would do, Anita and I, is that you are going to talk and you're going to identify what are the business functions that you have to do just as a matter of running a business. So just to kind of describe what I mean, one of the things that like we have to do is proposals. Okay. We have to write proposals. We have to send proposals. So let's do this. Let's, as a group, do some quick brainstorming. Anita and I will take notes. So as fast as you talk, we'll write it down. Let's come up with the different functions that you've got. And then what we'll do is, again, as a group, let's share some resources for some systems that we might use in order to manage that. Chris and I will share how we'll do it. Anita will talk a little bit about how she does it. And, we'd like to have this be a group discussion. Okay. We'll talk about the pros and cons, and then we'll plant a flag and declare success. How does that sound? Good? Okay. So let's do this. If you've got something that you want to share, just go ahead and go off mute. And again, Anita and I will capture it as quick as you can call it out. All right. So the time is yours. What are some of the business functions that you have as a part of running a practice?
Billing, market,
Billing. Okay, so let's put like billing and invoicing. Anita, why don't you grab that one? What else?
Marketing.
Processing. Is that right? Did I get it right?
Marketing.
Oh, marketing. Okay, got it. I'm working on the accent. Sorry about that. Marketing. Okay. What else?
Sales.
Sales. All right. And Anita, I think we're getting to a good rhythm. We'll do every other one. What else? Just think
Business
about like this.
development.
Business development. Okay. Okay.
Strategy.
Strategy. Okay. I'll throw one in. I'll try to. There we go. Copy paste. So we also manage an associate network to have people come in and do work for and on behalf of Lizard Brain. So doing associate management. Okay. What else?
Yeah. Team development.
Team development. Okay. Tim, you're
Part of
excellent
it.
at building teams. I love how by the way, if you don't know Tim, do you want to introduce yourself real quick? I learned a ton from you.
Uh, Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'm Tim. I'm from US, but I'm based in Singapore. But right now I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, with my family and my parents for a while. So um, that's why I can join these programs, Brian. I've joined a few. They're really excellent. I mean, my background is graphic design, visual communication, but I've gotten into this work, and Brian and I have done a few things together over the years. Still scribing, the graphic recording is my core thing, but we also do facilitation. We do, we do different kind of workshops, tangents of this work for business people, for commercial teams, for leaders, for HR kind of sessions. So, and we do a visual facilitation workshop. So we do all kinds of training. I love the opportunity to create, transform aha moments around people's relationship with their own creativity through these things. Same as Brian, right? Through the visual tools, right? To help reconnect people to their creativity and therefore to, their bigger sense of what's possible with themselves or with their teams or organizations.
Okay, so a couple of things. Thank you, Tim. By the way, I would just double down on what Tim said about training. If you guys are really interested in some hardcore graphic facilitation, visual recording training, Tim is an excellent resource for that. And so, I assume, Tim, that you've also got some sort of registration component to your courses. Is that right? Okay.
Yes, registration, yeah.
All right.
Database.
What else? Let's go back to some of those functions. What else do you all have?
Administration management, so like follow-up emails, making sure that supplies are ordered,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Why don't you scan through this list and again, maybe think about the life cycle of a project from soup to nuts. Is there anything else that's in here that is like a business function that we want to identify?
This isn't the projects per se, but legal considerations are another.
Legal? Okay, I got that
Legal,
one.
yeah.
What else? Chris, looked like you were about to say something.
Calendar management. I don't know how to call that, but I mean, I have a calendar app that people can choose what time to catch up with me.
Yep,
It saves back and forth.
Maybe scheduling, Anita, scheduling calendar.
That's a good word.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You reminded me of another one. How about like writing facilitation plans, right? Actually like doing the facilitation guides.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kaleem had one. Go ahead, Kaleem.
Yeah, sorry, I put it in the chat. Customer education or learning.
Okay. And then Tim, I grabbed yours, program development. And then Tim, I'll grab your other one, which is CRM. Okay. Tim, you want to define CRM?
Customer relationship management.
Okay.
The
So
funnel,
basically-
right, is another way of referring to it sometimes.
The funnel. All right. This is a lot. Let's see what else we've got on here. That looks pretty
Something
solid.
that I'd add to, and maybe it fits up with the billing invoicing, it's all the payments. So tax installments, paying your associates, paying your,
Mhm.
whatever that million.
Payments, taxes. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll separate it out just because we did. Anything else?
And this
Mhm.
falls under marketing, but things like if you're publishing a newsletter, you're posting social media, there's the development of both the writing and the imagery to go with those. So
Okay,
you could add it to marketing if you want, or call it out separate, whatever.
sure. Good one.
But that's not small.
Anything else?
Delivering the work.
Okay, why don't you grab that one, Anita?
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
continuing on the project lifestyle, so you deliver it and then there's the post. So it's the reporting, it could be the debrief, whatever the follow-up and next steps look like. Immediate and sort of quarterly follow-up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I guess backing up on that thread, the planning meetings.
Yeah. Do you want to grab that one, Anita?
Sure.
All right. Let me add, how about I'm going to add just like knowledge management. Okay. Which we might say is just like, storage, file
Yeah.
storage,
Mm.
right? Okay. Anything else? It's like, okay, if it's not on the list, I will be unsatisfied with this whole thing.
Go ahead, Tim, and then I'll add one more.
No, I was just responding to Brian's comment. If it's not on the list, you're not going to be happy with it.
Yeah. So this is, again, it could be a subset, but expenses to us are so tedious because they
Mhm.
fit into like 6 different categories. And the amount of time we spend talking about who pays for that cup of coffee just makes my head hurt.
Yes. Okay. So like expense tracking, expense management, expense tagging.
Yeah.
You know what? While I'm thinking of it, why don't we put timesheets on here? Occasionally we get into like, time and materials type things. So I'll grab that. Well, you got it. You're ahead of me, Anita. Anything else?
I don't know if this is included, but the sometimes 8 miles deep bureaucratic piles of paper that it takes to work for a particular client.
Yeah, what would we call that?
Is it procurement? Does that do
There
it?
you go.
Yeah, I got that one. So let's do procurement, other people like acquisitions.
Slash
Um,
standing offers are part of that family as well.
Say that again.
Do you have that standing offers?
Standing offers.
So
Yeah.
you're pre-approved for something, you've got to do those every few years.
Yeah, and let's do like just vendor enrollment, maybe,
Yep.
Bane of my existence, that stuff. We got one couple days ago. It's like, you haven't updated your vendor account in 2 years. I was like, we haven't worked for you in 3. Give us some work, then we'll update our profile. All right.
How about project management?
Yeah. Anita, you want to grab that one? And then I'll pull Zakia's feedback and surveys. Okay. I think we got customer education and learning. We got program development. Okay. I think this is a pretty good critical mass of stuff. Okay. You know what? I'm going to put my fingers on the scale of this one. Let's do an easy one. I think this is an easy one. I'm going to grab billing and invoicing and payment and taxes, pretty much all of like the accounting stuff. And let me add to that one, okay? Accounting. All right, so what are people using? I'm going to switch colors to blue for this one. So for the system side, what are people using for kind of like the billing, invoicing, accounting side of things? I'll just throw that out there. What do people use?
I use FreshBooks.
FreshBooks. Can you tell us about FreshBooks?
FreshBooks is a online platform where you can do invoicing, proposals, accept payments. You can do time tracking. There's a whole lot of different things, and it's really designed for sort of solopreneurs. Is their main customer base.
Nice. Thank you, Deborah. Anybody use something else besides FreshBooks?
We use Xero,
How do you spell that?
Xero.
Zero. Anita, you want to grab that one? What's Zero?
I can't tell you. My wife does it all. I can't tell you.
That's amazing. That's great.
That's my system, right? Is my
Okay, so you've got
partner.
XERO, and then you've also got Tim's wife. Okay.
So
Thank you.
Xero
I mean, that's-
is a small business, kind of like accounting platform.
Okay. Anybody use anything else? QuickBooks for invoicing. Thank you, Nora. That's actually, we do the same thing, and that's pretty much all we use it for at this point. Tiff, I use Fiverr Workdesk for billing and payments. That's pretty cool. Let's see. And then Dext for expenses. Thanks, Nora. We'll grab that. Okay. Anything else? Pretty good list. Let's go ahead and
I was
share
just gonna
answer.
say I started using Expensify, but I didn't stick with it long enough to evaluate very well.
Yeah, but then quit. Yeah, that's okay. We actually use Google Sheets for a lot of stuff, that just works for us. I'm not saying that that's the go-to, but that's what works for us. Okay, anybody have any curiosity about these systems? Do you want to hear more about any of them? Anything catch your ear just now as you were hearing people describe it? Yes, Zakia, okay, what did you hear?
She wants to know how to get into Tim's wife direct messages, I think.
That's an idea. So she says, please explain the difference in preference. Okay, why don't we do a quick go around? I'll start just because, we tend to use Google Sheets. I like Google Sheets because it's extremely flexible. I did everything in Excel before. And if I want to pull up, say, for example, all of the times that I paid Sherry, as an example, or if I want to pull up, what kind of projects did I do for the last 5 years? It's extremely fast for me to be able to use Google Sheets because of the way that I've got it set up to just pull the data that I want. I use everything from tracking mileage to even, managing NOVA Scribe stuff on a Google Sheet. I just like it because it's super, super flexible and I'm not locked into somebody else's system. Now, let me also say, I'm a finance major, so this kind of stuff comes easy for me, Chris also says you can tailor Google Sheets to provide the exact information you want. Okay, others, why did you go with what you picked? What's your preference?
I chose my wife because she's
An excellent reason, Tim.
she's excellent. She's reliable, she's structured, she's wonderful, diligent. I'm just having fun.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, like if this does not bring you joy, hiring someone is a great thing to do. That's one of the things, like accounting. I think you outsource a bunch of things, but I think especially outsourcing your accounting, outsourcing your legal, having a good attorney, and outsourcing your lawn care made a huge difference for me. Okay. How about let's do FreshBooks? Who had FreshBooks?
I had FreshBooks. So FreshBooks, I chose it because it had the most bells and whistles and functionality for the price.
Mm-hmm.
And it's specifically for like solopreneurs. That's their main market. So they've made it for people that are not, you don't have to be a finance major to do it, but it also has a lot of bells and whistles. Like you can hook it up to your bank account and have it import your expenses, and you can have it do automated things for quite a low price. So I thought it was great. I've had it for years. If it like went away, I would cry.
Nice. Thank you, Deborah. Nora and Chris, you both use QuickBooks, I think, for invoicing, right? So what's your preference there?
Chris, do you want to go ahead first?
I think she did tag your end, Nora.
Go ahead, Nora.
So my answer is somewhat like Tim's. It's we outsource our accounting and our legal and our snow removal based on almost all your good advice. We don't have a lawn, so that makes that easy. Our accountant offers it to us at a discounted rate, and it speaks to our other systems, so it makes a lot of sense, and we can, be external facing. I also mentioned Dext for expenses, so we literally take photographs you have to take a photo of the cup of coffee and what the tip was. You send both invoices indexed and it communicates with QuickBooks. And then we can download those in our expense portion of the invoice. So it's having that back end communication that it's time consuming still, but way less time consuming because the systems talk to each other.
That's pretty cool, Nora. Thank you. How about how about Fiverr Workspace? Tiff, that was yours?
Yeah, I got referred to it when I started my coaching practice. It used to be and Co, and then Fiverr bought it, and it was the cheapest one for invoicing compared to some of the other options.
You like it?
Yeah, it gets the job done.
Yeah,
I
it
feel like,
works.
it's functional for now. It's easy.
Cool. All right, let's pick another function then. Yeah, how about dealer's choice? Do you guys have any preference? Sherry?
So Brian, before we go on to the next one, can I ask a question? It doesn't sound like anybody's currently using a like a personal assistant necessarily, or except you, maybe. But with the idea of outsourcing, and yeah, Tim's wife, but outsourcing to someone who is maybe not in your household or not already in your circle. Has anybody tested out the idea of using a virtual assistant, from a distance? And if so, how do you vet that person? Because that scares the living daylights out of me. Trusting somebody with my financial side, particularly.
Right. Tim?
Scheduling is one thing, but finances is another. Curious about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had virtual assistants for maybe 4 years. At the moment, we don't have one because she just left for family reasons. And we've decided to try to manage it ourselves. But she wasn't in charge of our accounts. My wife still held on to that very carefully, but she did many other things, administrative things, marketing, social media, posting and content creation, a newsletter, follow up on our programs and requests. She was the catcher's mitt for email to me. So first response to clients. So we gave her enough information on our billing and costing so that she could have that first response. So she did many different things. Yeah, some business development. But in terms of finding it, we started out first with a referral. So there was some reliability there. And then that referral, for 5 years, we have one for 2 years. But then that referral, she referred another, of her colleagues. So it kind of went on from there, the referrals. They're all based in the Philippines. I'm in Asia, so it's the same time zone, but yeah, I don't know. It was like Singapore dollars, 700 a month, which is maybe US 400 a month or something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Sherry, does that help?
Yes, super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's pick another one. Does anybody have like some energy around one of these functions that they want to get some ideas on?
I'd love to hear about the marketing, posting on socials, that kind of external. I don't know if biz dev fits under that.
Yeah, let's why don't we do that one? So let's see, we've got marketing. What else would we pull into that maybe? Where's business development? Oh, this one. Maybe the newsletter publishing. And Sherry, you tell me if I'm off on that one.
Yep, no.
Okay, and I think that's pretty good. That looks like a critical mass. Okay, Tiff's got some ideas already, so I'll grab that one. Hootsuite is pricey but capable social media planner. What else do you all use?
Social Pilot.
Social Pilot. You want to talk about that one, Chris?
Yeah, it's great. I have access to all of the accounts that I handle, and I can create a post and schedule it right there for all the things. So no matter what account I'm in, I can just click, like for Brian's, I can do all things Brian Tarallo and Lizard Brain connected all in one shot. So it's
That's
like,
how you do that. All right, cool.
yeah. Yeah. So
Can I
it's,
just keep you on the spot, Like, so can you, if it's not too confidential, so someone makes a comment on Brian's post, who is the human that comment? Like, how do you manage that volume? Like, I feel very grateful that people comment on my things, and then it's like, oh my gosh, my to-do list just grew by
Yeah.
all the
Mhm.
comments.
So that depends. There's a couple ways around that. You can like hire someone that just handles your social media engagement, which is responding to those comments or whatever. Generally, between Brian and I, it's just kind of this weird organic thing that one of us always happens to respond. I mean, so the response is either going to be from Brian or myself. And hopefully you'll never know which is which, because that's my goal. So, but yeah, that's how we do it. There's no, we don't really have like a set plan as far as like who's going to respond to it when. Like if we see it and we see that there's a response, then we know the other's done it. The way that I do the social media, there's a post done every other day, and then there's one article done per week. And the every other day rotates for the posts. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Right? So it's you're alternating, but the biggest thing is just being consistent.
Yeah.
Why don't we add to this a little bit, maybe expand this conversation out to include social media, right? So I'll throw Canva on there.
Yeah.
So Chris and I both use Canva to do everything from LinkedIn to Instagram posts to, meetup stuff too. Anybody else?
I can throw in a couple more. Zoho, Debbie and I use that for our newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
and that you can also connect it to various social media, so it's publishing in multiple places at once.
Okay.
And Debbie created a masterful spreadsheet in Google Sheets that we track all of our various marketing things. Because some of it happens in Zoho, some of it in Canva, and then we also publish separately on LinkedIn when we have something, an article that we want to, or something we want to turn into an article.
Cool.
And
Thank you, sir.
it's actually Zoho campaigns, Brian. Zoho has a lot of they have like a whole Google suite of like things, right? They're in competition with Google basically. So
Thanks, Debbie. Others, anything you want to add to this? Okay, let's maybe get social media specific. What social media sites do you put your stuff out on? I'll do the easy one, do LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yep.
LinkedIn #1.
Nice.
I
And
think.
then what else?
Facebook, Instagram.
Facebook, Instagram. Okay. Meetup. Hey, there you go.
TikTok.
TikTok. Okay. Careful with that.
Not much.
Anything else?
YouTube.
YouTube. That's a good one. Anything else?
Pinterest.
Pinterest. Okay. Yeah, that's it. It seems like I use the metaphor that social media seems like a coal-fired furnace that you just keep dumping coal into, and it's like, okay, what am I getting out of this? Yeah, it can be a lot. It can be a lot. All right, let's. Any other thoughts about this one before we pick another function?
I don't know if anybody's using Alignable and whether that counts as social media or something else.
Alignable is. I think I know what that is. Why don't you tell us what alignable is?
Alignable, it's trying to be another Facebook, but nicer. It's groups will create groups on it, and you can carry on conversations within a certain topic, or there's like groups for business owners and solopreneurs. people interested in very specific things. So there are places to post events and advertising and that kind of thing, but it's a little bit more about connecting. It's designed more as a connecting. I guess it's a little bit more similar to LinkedIn.
Yep. Okay.
But
So I'll add
kind
that
of,
one.
yeah.
So Nora, I would say yes, Blue Sky is doing pretty well for all the reasons. The other one that I'll throw on here, believe it or not, is Reddit. I've actually made some really good connections on Reddit because of the very specific subreddits that have to do with, the kind of work that we do. All right, anything else about marketing, business development, newsletter, social media sites before we move on? Okay, I'm going to do a quick one, and that is facilitation guides. We'll start with the easy ones. I mean, if you're coming up with your facilitation plan, there's of course Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever. You can always do it that way. Or there's a lot of people that will put this into Excel or Google Sheets. However, I would strongly suggest that if you haven't checked out Session Lab, it's just amazing. I mean, I wish that I'd had it years ago, but I will I'll do one Session Lab. It's crowdsourced, it's not crowdsourced. It's cloud-based. So I can collaborate with my clients. I can show them one version, and then I can have my version, which has all of the details behind it. I can also publish a participant agenda as well. And it also will hold all of my materials as links, as attachments. It'll pretty much do everything. So in terms of just like minimizing the back and forth in terms of emails, especially with really complicated facilitation, Session Lab is absolutely the way to go. It's awesome. If you want to geek out about Session Lab later, please let me know. They don't pay me to say that, by the way. It's just like next to that and Calendly, like those two have changed my life.
Wow.
Does anybody use anything else to come up with like facilitation
I
plans?
use ChatGPT
Okay.
to come up with a facilitation guide.
ChatGPT, sure. Anybody else?
I actually like Miro if I'm
Miro, yep.
visualizing it,
Yeah.
and Mural.
And Mural, yep.
I use Miro as more of a planning and as a gallery.
Mhm.
So I may have, a Miro page board for each workshop we do, each client event, each talk or delivery. And it's like a space to design content. And then
Yeah.
so it's like my holding place, here's, I don't know, here's some material, here's references, here's some pictures, here's whatever. It's a place to just throw it all in there. And then I design it in different ways into a Google Doc, into a boring thing, or create put some slides onto Miro and use that. Sometimes I use the Miro as a client presentation. Like here's what we're doing. Here's some sketches I'll put in there, and then when we have a complex project, we'll take them through the different boards and the story and the iterations of a project.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
As long as we're talking about like kind of like the design space, like the whiteboarding, anybody use anything else? Sometimes, actually all the time, I'll just use PowerPoint with a tablet, especially if I'm doing like a virtual discovery call, just to do some very quick sketches to say, all right, well, what if it looked like this, All right, cool.
Or just an analog whiteboard sometimes is good.
Yeah, just a whiteboard.
Or
Sometimes
just sketching. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say sketching live on the document camera, right? Live
Document
sketching it by hand, what you're doing on the the iPad or the virtual whiteboard.
Sherry, did you have one?
Oh, just on a few rare occasions, I've used the whiteboard tool in Zoom.
Good one.
Mostly when it's like cut and paste, because it's a little clunky, but
yeah, it can be.
Works in a pinch.
Just another that I'll add. I don't know if anyone follows Jim Durno. He's a graphic recorder from Cape Town, and he just had a really cool post. A client came to his studio. They started
yeah.
on the whiteboard, and then he has a series of three-dimensional cutouts. So imagine like books stacked on top of each other as a three, it's, I don't know how to
Yeah.
describe that, but then he writes on the sides of the book to indicate the layers. It was just so, I just think a graphic recorder would align quickly with his thinking and methodology. It was beautifully done.
That's awesome. I don't mean this to be disparaging at all, but like if I've got Jim kind of looks like Gandalf, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I just want to make sure
And
I got
then
the
you
right
add
guy.
this gorgeous South African accent. He's
Yeah.
fantastic.
He's check him out. Durno, Durno. Have I got that right, Nora?
Yeah.
Uh, Jim Durno's 3D cutouts. Okay. Let's zoom back over. Let's see. So we got proposal, sales strategy, delivering work. Pick one. What would you say? Which one do you want to focus on?
Can I say proposals?
Yeah, let's do proposals. All right. So what are people using for proposals, proposal management, getting signatures, tracking all that good stuff? What would you say? Deborah, you want to go?
Yeah, I use FreshBooks for that. So it has a feature that you can do all of the proposals in.
Okay. And does
The,
that kind of track the ins and outs? Okay, these are pending, these are coming in.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, others? I mean, we use Google Sheets. It's not the most technical thing in the world, but it works. Okay. And actually, maybe we should talk about it. So we do have like kind of a master template that's in a Google Doc right now that's got a whole bunch of different variations to it. And then depending on what exactly we're bidding on, we'll make a copy of that sheet and then just cut out the stuff that we don't need. And usually at that point, we're like 95% there. We just have to customize it for the client, and then, send it out for signature. So that's what we use. Anybody else?
Yeah,
I
Mary
do
Jo,
something.
thumbs up.
We do
I
a
do
we
something similar in just in Word, and I have a couple different versions for like the two different types of work. But yeah, it's basically all in there, cut and paste and delete the parts that aren't relevant.
Tim says does the same thing using Canva. Okay.
Yeah,
Nora?
and I'll build on Tim's. We've literally yesterday just finished this. This is something we've been talking about since last summer. It is a world of hurt to build, a single client list, and we've got like 8 different categories in our client list. So I'm going to say it's taken us 40 hours as a team and many, many tiers.
Yeah.
But we have a 39-page now master that we're trying to see if it actually works. It is such a time-consuming thing, but I think it will save us time in the end.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Nora, because so yesterday we talked about operating norms, which are the ways that like we actually, the kind of the behaviors and that we have to be in partnership with each other. And one of the behaviors that Chris and I have is we have just as much structure as we need to keep our sanity and no more, right? And I've seen, you can judge for yourself whether or not this is good or bad. I'm just going to report to you what I've seen. I've seen a lot of folks, whether they're facilitators or not, but entrepreneurs who spend a lot of time and energy putting content into some proposal tool that kind of locks them into that particular format, right? And I mean, I think that that's one thing if you're kind of doing the same work again and again. But the stuff that at least we do is so varied from a project to project basis that I got a little concerned about like locking our, proposal into one standard template, and having to go back to a system, no matter how good it is, because I just want the flexibility of being able to like write to the task that's there. Not only that, I want my clients to feel like what they're doing is bespoke to them. That's part of like one of our values. You could completely argue with me on that one and probably be completely justified in that. That's just kind of the approach that we've taken with it. Does anybody, use something else? There are a bunch of like proposal tools that are out there. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but you pretty much like click here if you're doing this, and it spits out a proposal for you. Anybody?
There's gotta be-
Honeybooks, that's one.
There's,
Mhm.
oh, I mean, I've seen people do demos of this using AI, which blows you away. You just put in a few key pieces of content information, and you got a proposal or a marketing proposal, including pictures, slides, content, testimonials, all the stuff, right? Using, I can't remember which tool it is, which AI tool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe AI in that list. Yep, very good. Anybody else for proposals? What do you do for signatures? Nora, what were you going to say?
Oh, so I just get back to proposals, and the reason that it's taken us since last summer, and I haven't said it out loud to anyone externally yet, so this is me validating that it's worth 40 hours of our collective time. It's such a high stakes thing because we
Yes.
live and die by our proposals.
Yes.
That is how we put food on the table. So it's so true, Brian. Our work is bespoke, and I think a year ago you said it, how much time you spent on proposals, and I thought we're not even within a 10%, right? We're spending way too long on proposals.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we're always in this existential crisis of, is this winnable? Like, we've got a decision tree to, are we going to invest the world of hurt into bidding before we bid? And then we talk about, now how much time are we going to spend customizing it to the 10 specific criteria for this tiny little project? And like, then 2 interviews sometimes. It just,
Right.
we're losing our minds sometimes to win a small little project.
Actually, I'm completely with you, Nora. Chris and I have been talking about this because we are thinking about going after some like on the street RFPs, RFPs that are let out there to the wide world. I've had terrible win rates with, RFPs that are just out there. And you really don't get the feedback on why you lost. It's just like, we went with somebody else. I'm like, okay, you want to tell us why? Was it wired to somebody else? Was that your cousin? Was it on price? What's going on there? And so, I think that if we're what Chris and I have been playing around with is that if we go after these things, that we're not going to do it if it's anywhere south of a $50,000 job, because it's just not worth it to have to write that proposal and then, just kind of throw it out there, right? If it's going to be a high risk, and it is, it better be a high return. Anyway, that's a little bit divergent, but I'm wondering what other people think about that.
Well, I'm guessing you guys have gotten into a lot more complicated kinds of proposal writing than I have needed to do. But one of the things, like, I will still spend way too much time writing proposals for those dinky little projects.
Yes.
So I get that part. But so one of the things that I try to do with my like master proposal that I sort of revisit at the beginning of every year, does it, how's my pricing? How's the big questions are, do I have a header in there for every sort of section of content that I need answers to in order to make sure that my price is correct and that our assumptions are correct and that I'm not stepping into something that I was unaware of. So that's my protection, to make sure if I'm going to go to this effort, is it worth it? Because I'm usually having a conversation about here's the project as we envision it, and then there's always, something different or something additional that I can read between the lines that they probably
Always.
want. So so I will put my assumptions in there, and sometimes I'm putting and if you like this, then we could also write into the proposal. If I haven't been able to talk about it, that kind of thing. So it's my reminder, like, don't let this proposal go out the door unless I've hit these 10 things or whatever it is.
I think that is a really, really good best practice, because I love what's going on in chat right now, just like with Zakia. And Zakia, I'm just going to give voice to what you type. So she says, as an event planner, it's golden to hear the other side of the equation. Chris says, yes, Zakia gives us a better understanding of what we have to go through to submit a proposal. Yeah, and what I would say is that, it doesn't matter how good the RFP is, the request for proposal. there's always going to be stuff that we want to know, right? We had a proposal that we just responded to, and it didn't tell us how many people were there, like how many participants were going to be there. I was like, well, everybody remembers. There's always going to be something missing. So, Nora, I know you said that you win or lose based on the proposal. I think you win or lose based on the discovery. I think it's on that initial conversation that's there. But anyway, let's get back to systems, because we could have a whole conversation around discovery, which in fact we do. It's going to be scheduled for another retooling. But let's do another one of these. So yeah, you want to pick one? So Tim, you got one?
CRM, customer relationship
CRM.
management.
Customer relationship management. All right. So what are people using for CRM? So you could think about this loosely as like the database that tracks your information about your clients. Maybe it's your address, work done, that kind of thing. So what do you all use? Anybody want to guess what we use?
Kajabi.
Nope, but I'll write it
Sheets.
down.
Google
Google
Sheets.
Sheets is exactly right. Google Sheets.
You're the Google Sheet poster boy, Ryan.
It's like product placement.
I'm looking at this stuff. I'm like, well, I could do better than this, whatever. I'll just write it out. So the Grove uses Sugar CRM. Okay, that's another one to check out. What else?
Zoho has CRM.
Zoho, excuse me. Okay. That's cool. I got to check out Zoho.
I'm going to reveal my simplicity here. I honestly put notes in my contacts in my
Sure.
Apple contacts.
I think that's perfectly okay, right? Notes in Apple Contacts. Okay. What else?
MailChimp.
MailChimp? Yeah, why not? You could do MailChimp. Chris, we don't use MailChimp anymore. Which one do we use?
Use Squarespace.
Oh yeah, thank you. Squarespace.
You're welcome.
That's your website hosting, right? Squarespace.
Yes, it is.
Not
Yes.
only that, yeah. It also
Plus,
does have
plus.
a CRM function as well. So that's kind of neat. Deborah, what do you like about Zoho CRM?
Just like all of Zoho's products, they're quite simple to learn how to use. They talk to each other, so they have a lot of different modules: CRM, project management, newsletters, that kind of thing. So they can all talk to each other. You can buy a bundle called Zoho One, and you can sort of get like everything you can imagine, surveys, and I don't know, there's probably like 40 different apps that you can get. And they're very intuitive. I think another one that might fall into this category of things to look at is Monday.com.
Yes. So Monday is a little bit different. Monday might be one of our like more project tracking type things.
You can use, Monday is so flexible, you can sort of use it for anything. It's like
really
Google
can.
Sheets.
Yeah.
ClickUp.
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with what to label it. But there's a few like that. So Monday, Asana is another one that's kind of in that same camp. Yeah, Google Sheets, right?
ClickUp.
I think they're called process workflows, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, maybe process workflows would be a way to call it. Tim, did you have one?
ClickUp.
One more time.
ClickUp.
ClickUp. Okay, I don't know that. What's ClickUp?
Yeah, it's kind of a lower tier kind of version of Monday or Asana.
Okay.
Simpler, more, budget friendly. We don't use it anymore, but we were using it via one of our recommendation of our VAs, virtual assistants.
Yeah.
That's what we use.
You use ClickUp? Nora?
Absolutely. And I'm curious of saying that it's a lower end. We use it for absolutely everything, for all of our project timelines, keeping track of document versions, CRM, like it is our absolute foundation.
Cool. That's good to know. So ClickUp is, we're going to say endorsed by Tim and Nora. Yay. Okay. Anything else like that that you're using for process workflows, task tracking, project management? Anything else?
I've been experimenting using reminders. Yes, I'm an Apple fan.
Yeah.
Reminders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
reminders
Just on
you
your
can
calendar?
on the calendar. They can be added to the calendar. There's also a separate app that you can create lists. You can create sub lists, subtasks and subtasks. You can do groupings. You can they've added some functionality there. That's
Mhm.
again
Yeah.
slightly quirky sometimes, but more robust than you'd think.
Let me drop that in, Apple reminders. Thank you, Sherry.
Sure.
All right, I think we've got time for one more. Okay, so go ahead and pick one.
I have a question, Brian,
Yeah, go for it.
or Chris, maybe. You said Google Sheets and Chris said Squarespace. How do you guys juggle between those two, or what's better for what, or how do you manage those two
Yeah.
in a
Chris, you want to
streamlined
do this
way?
one?
Sure. So Google Sheets, we have our CRM in Google Sheets. And that is broken down by the client's first name, last name, their organization, all their contact information, website, all of that. Then with Squarespace, you just upload the emails as for your contacts. So then from Squarespace, we can do email campaigns
Okay.
and newsletters.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm. Yep. And that one right now, our CRM, which is just the sheet, it's got about 821 entries on it right now. And if I'm ever bored, which isn't often, I'll just go through it and like just scrub it and say, okay, well, we haven't, communicated with this person for a while. You still at 8 Sin Ming Road, Tim?
Me. No, we've moved.
Okay, give me your new address so that you can get your Christmas card. Okay.
My Chris. Okay.
Why don't
Well,
you
thank
just
you.
put it in
You
the
can type
chat?
it in chat. I'll grab it from you. All right, I think we've got time for like one more. So how about
I'm
you
impressed,
pick,
Brian. Your access to client, address and email and whatever in a
exactly.
moment.
So
Good job.
how about you let's pick one more. So who's got one? It's like, oh, I came here like looking for this one. So who's got one function that they'd like to blow out? And Zakia, yeah, we'll get access to the recording. We usually post that pretty quick.
Ooh, something around whether it's sales or business development. We didn't talk about that totally yet.
Sales. Well, we had business development up here
We
with
did.
marketing, but yeah, we can do
did.
those too.
But like the human side of it, I guess.
Okay. So the human side of it, could you tell us a little bit more about the human side of it, just to make sure we're answering the right question?
Well, maybe it's I'm making an assumption there, but I'm curious about how you do your there's putting info out and getting people to respond, but then turning those into leads and then clients.
Okay. Nice. Nice icon, Anita. I like it. All right. So what are people using for, I'm going to use another term for this. So we'll call it like pipeline management, right?
Perfect.
Thinking about your pipeline, your sales funnel, whatever you want to call it. So what do people currently use for that?
Google Sheets.
Google Sheets, no surprise. What else? Tiff?
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers, that's a good one.
Oh dear. So honest.
Tim, what about you guys?
Sorry, I was just typing something. I mean, we just use the proposal, and once that's signed, right, then that becomes the contract. But I don't know what networking, the not very organized. So I hope to get better at that. So that's the CRM part, like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the
Nora?
conversion, yeah.
Did you say Nora?
Yeah, I did. I was wondering
Oh
what you
gosh.
did.
Okay, being called out for because my answer is the same as Tim's. It's like, oh yeah, I wish I did that more. So I think we try to classify our clients based on the amount of work we do or the value of contracts. So we roughly have 3 tiers of clients. And then we do some tracking through our project management tool, that ClickUp tool that Tim mentioned and that our business uses. And we just try to, oh, it's been 6 months, maybe we're going to reach out. So I might try to be more intentional on social media with some of the, just so that I'm showing up in their ecosystem a bit more. So it is super not sophisticated or structured the way that
Gotcha.
everything else in our business is more structured than that outreach and staying in touch.
All right. In that case, I'll show you ours. Okay. And it's just put together in a Google Sheet. So it's nothing special, but here we go. Now, I'm not going to show you everything that's in here, but I will show you this one, which is a job that we're doing for the Grove Consultants, because that's kind of public and it's out there. Okay. So first of all, we track things based on their current stage. So this one is in design. So the way that we think of it is we go from lead. So this is somebody that just reaches out to us, to discovery. This is somebody that we're having the conversation with, to proposal, where we send them a proposal, to design, and then eventually to like really invoice is the next step after that. So we've really got like 5 different stages. The company, who is our point of contact, exactly what the project or event is that we're doing, what service is it? In this case, it's training, principles of graphic facilitation, where this person came from, generated the work ourselves, and then like, a couple of details underneath this. So who exactly is the source? When did we actually have the discovery conversation? When did we send the proposal? When is the signature due? When was the signature received? What was the amount? Okay. And then any sort of details around the amount. When is the event itself? Location, who's actually doing the work? And then usually just a quick description, but this will have a link to another Google Sheet where we've actually done our discovery, so that's really like our client file, right? Is just a Google Sheet. And so you can click this and just jump right into the details of this thing, where we've got everything from like snapshots of the design, maybe it's a mural board, maybe it's a PowerPoint. And then within that, there's links to everything else that we've got. Then we've got, the client's work email, their contact information in here. And then this is what then populates our CRM. So this is organic, it's homegrown, but it works pretty well for us. And by the way, these colors up here, if anything in here was like a problem, it would either code yellow, orange, or red automatically. This is usually if some dates are getting missed. And that's just a lookup function where it's like, okay, we're coming up on the due date for this proposal and we haven't gotten a signature back. So again, like I said, we try to maintain systems that are just at a bare minimum to maintain our sanity. Okay, so this is what we use for our pipeline. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
All right, so we are reaching the end. Let me go ahead and drop this into chat. Just a reminder, NOVA Scribes has moved away from charging for its workshops, but we do a pay what feels right donation. And so if you got something out of this, buy us a cup of coffee, $5, whatever it is that you want to put into that. Maybe don't go to Starbucks today, whatever that is, but that's what pay what feels right is. We will share, if you want to hang out for a minute, I can download this mural and send it to everybody here. I'll also attach it to the meetup. And since you all were signed up for the meetup, you'll get a notification there. And when we actually upload the recording. Speaking of recording, let me go ahead and stop it.